Hey cats and kittens, welcome to my channel. My name is Alonda Carter and I am the recovering Hunbot. I create anti-MLM videos and I'm also dipping my toe into true crime. And if you really think about it, isn't multi-level marketing criminal? Now I'm going to apologize to you because there's some construction going on outside. So if you hear some random noises, that's what it is and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry. That's just life in the city. So anywho, I came across, I'm not really sure what to call it. I'm kind of thinking urban legend or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was a very strange twist and turn of a rabbit hole. So I am going to share with you what I discovered as I just had to keep reading on this. I had to keep looking. Oh, hair going in my eye. I had to keep looking at it because I was just intrigued. And I figured, this is something that's making me go, you might enjoy it too. And here's the thing. I swear, if you look into anyone or anything long enough, somehow it's going to end up connecting back to multi-level marketing, because that's exactly what this story does. Is it just winds around and eventually, boom, there you have it. There's multi-level marketing staring at you in the face. So this whole red shoe thing, there's this theory, legend, whatever you want to call it, that somehow red shoes signify pedophilia. And because of all that, I'm like, what is up with people thinking this? Where did this come from? I kind of wanted to, just like dive into this and see if I could untangle this mess. So before we get started, I'm just going to issue you a little warning. I mean, this isn't exactly true crime. There's just some weird stuff going on. So anywho, let's get on with the warning. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. Check. It contains graphic descriptions of crime scenes. Not so much, but that's part of it. Adult dialogue, probably so. And strong language. Yeah, that's probably in there too, just so you know. Viewer discretion. Yes, that is advised. Okay, to start off this whole thing, my background, I have a degree in anthropology, so I'm like, what's the symbolism related to a red? To me, that seemed like a logical starting point to see, what does red typically mean? Now, the thing is, across cultures, a color may not have the same meaning. So everything is relative to you in terms of the culture that you're from. Now, red is one of the primary colors, and typically in Western culture, it's associated with passion and fire, love, that sort of thing. But a lighter shade, say pink, usually denotes femininity. A dark red is usually related to, power of some sort. Think about political candidates or politicians. Oftentimes they wear a red tie. But red can also serve as a warning sign. Think of a stop sign or an ambulance or some sort of danger warning, trouble ahead. However, on the other side of the world, in China, red actually signifies happiness and is often used in weddings. Now, when it comes to color, or really, any kind of symbol, when you're trying to deconstruct what symbols mean, you really have to put it within the cultural context. Otherwise, you're kind of like operating in a vacuum, and you're probably going to allow your own biases just to slip in there, because we're human and we all have biases. So now let's kind of backtrack, hop in our little time machines and go back in time. Red, when you think about it, going back to cave paintings, red is usually signified as having some sort of life-giving powers. In ancient Egypt, red often signified victory, and in fact, ancient Egyptians would paint their bodies red. In ancient Greece, red was, associated with the god of war, Ares. In ancient Hindu, red is linked to magic. Now, as I was doing my research, I came across this little fairy tale that has to do with 12 brothers. I had never heard about it until I started researching this. So anywho, the story goes something like this. I might be leaving out, some things of it, but I'm trying to synthesize it for you. So anywho, there's these 12 brothers. A queen had 12 sons, and she became pregnant with her 13th child. And the king wanted to have a female child. So he decided that if the queen had a girl, the girl was going to inherit the kingdom, even if that meant he would have to kill all of his sons so that his daughter could have the kingdom. Now, the queen, because she loved her sons, she sent them away. And the queen let her sons know that if she had a boy and everything was safe, she would wave a white flag as a signal saying, "Come on back, everything's cool." But if she had a girl, she would wave a red flag, which would send a signal saying, "Keep going, run away, don't come back, because if you come back, your dad's going to end up killing you." Now, one of my all-time favorite movies is The Wizard of Oz. I just love that movie. And if you remember, Dorothy wore some ruby red slippers, which, did have some magical powers. But the thing is, those slippers in the original story were silver, they weren't red. So why did they become red? Well, there was a new technology called Technicolor, and allowing the ruby slippers to become literally ruby slippers and not silver slippers, that would take full advantage of Technicolor. Overall, the slippers are, suggested that it's Dorothy's power of some sort. In fact, Glinda tells her that at the very end, that you always had the power to go home. And then there's this other story, which again, I never even knew this story existed until I started researching this. This story is by Hans Christian Andersen, and it's called The Red Shoes. Now, there was this little girl, and her name was Karen, and she was very poor, but she was adopted by someone who had a lot of money, and they gave her these red shoes. And she loved these shoes, and she just wore them all over the place. And one day she started dancing, and she just never could stop. And so the only way that she could stop is if she, cut off her feet, which, that kind of sucks, right? She ended giving up her life of riches, and then she went back to just working as a maid. And it was all related to, losing her vanity. Now, red shoes in modern times, there's a lot of designers who've made some very fancy, fabulous red shoes. I don't know if you're a fan of HBO's Sex and the City. It's off air now, but you can watch it. Anyway, shoes became a really big deal in that series, specifically for one character, Carrie Bradshaw, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. And Carrie Bradshaw once said this line: "The fact is, sometimes it's hard to walk in a single woman's shoes. That's why we need really special ones now and then to make the walk a little more fun." And I love that just as the idea, because sometimes, you can get some shoes that are just fun and really cool. As a matter of fact, when we moved here, I got rid of a ton of shoes. So I'm just not wearing them, but I love shoes. There's something about a really cool pair of shoes that I think it just puts a little, oomph in your step, so to speak. Now, you might be familiar with some very expensive shoes that have a red sole. Christian Louboutin, I'm not probably saying it correctly, but anyway, he is the designer responsible for these very expensive shoes that had a red sole. And when you get women's shoes from this designer, they range anywhere from about $600 to $7,000 for a single pair of shoes. Hollywood celebrities, sport these shoes all over the place because really these shoes are just kind of considered the ultra glam shoe. But when you go back in time, red shoes also have had a history, and often they have signified power and wealth. For instance, there were Roman emperors who wore red shoes. Also, aristocrats in history are known to have worn red shoes. Now, as I did research in this, when you're looking up red shoes, you can't help but come across the Pope, because the Pope is known for wearing red shoes. Historically, when you look at the Pope's red shoes, the Pope has 3 different styles of shoes. The Pope will wear shoes when he walks inside the Vatican, and those are red. He wears sandals when giving Mass, and then he has other shoes that he uses when he walks outside of the Vatican. The color red, when talking about the Catholic Church, signifies the blood of Catholic martyrs. It also signifies the blood of Christ. There is a link to Christ's bloody feet as he is being whipped and carrying the cross to be crucified. So overall, the Pope's red shoes serve to signify God's love for mankind. And they also symbolize the Pope's submission to Christ. Now, as I was doing my research, just looking up red shoe stuff, I came across something called the Red Shoe Movement. And the Red Shoe Movement is linked to women, and for there to be this like power of femininity. It's basically like every woman can find their own definition of success. And like I said, I kept doing some research and I found something called the Red Shoe Club. In 1904, Amadeo Gianni founded the Bank of Italy. I probably didn't say that name right and completely butchered it, but just deal with it, okay? Anyway, so the Bank of Italy merged with the Bank of America in the 1920s, and Amadeo created a holding company that was called Transamerica Corporation. Transamerica built a building in San Francisco that is the shape of a pyramid, and this happened in the early 1970s. Transamerica is now a life insurance company, and they have something that's called the Red Shoe Club, and connected to it is health and wealth. Now, there's this guy named Herbert Humphrey, and he used to be with Primerica, which is also a multi-level marketing company. He left Primerica in 1991 and founded the World Marketing Alliance. In 1998, it was fined $100,000 after their clients lost $2 million in unregistered investments. Aegon, a Dutch company, purchased select assets of World Marketing Alliance and renamed it World Financial Group. Transamerica is now a subsidiary of World Financial Group. World Financial Group is what? A multi-level marketing company. Now, back to that whole Red Shoe Club thing. You have to qualify to get in. I mean, that's just so typical of multi-level marketing. To get anything special, you have to meet certain requirements. That's just the name of the game. It's a club for the hardest working agents. And if you qualify for this club, you get a custom pair of red Nike shoes. Now, if you dig into red shoes long enough, you're going to come across the name Tony Podesta. In 2013, Herbalife, bingo, look, another MLM connection, hired the Podesta Group. The Podesta Group is a lobbying company. Now, in 2018, Tony Podesta came under fire over alleged foreign war. Now, like I said, sooner or later, if you're looking into red shoes, our boy Tony is going to just pop on up. This is where the story, it takes a strange twist. So bear with me. I mean, I'm just telling you the story of like when I'm putting all of these different things about red shoes together. So is it true? Does it mean anything? Who knows? Is it entertaining to listen to? Possibly, at least I hope so. Okay, Tony Podesta had a very large art collection. So I'm going to talk about a couple of artists because they're connected to what? Oh yeah, red shoes. And I'm probably going to absolutely slaughter these names, so just deal. Biljana Drvdjevic is from Serbia. Her art is haunting and beautiful in my opinion. Now, there are violent themes in her art which reflect what was going on in her country during the 1990s, which you may or may not be familiar with. During this time, there was a lot of fighting and ethnic cleansing. I am not going to go into all the Serbian history. Just know there were a lot of atrocities against girls, women, boys, men. I mean, against people. It just got really, really nasty. Now, if you view her art outside of this context, you might jump to a conclusion that it has a different representation. Tony Podesta had several of pieces of her art. He also had an enormous art collection before he and his wife, Heather, divorced. There was also this one particular piece by Louise Bourgeois. I don't know if I said it right. Anyway, Louise was an American-French artist. Her art was originally associated with surrealism. She is best known for her arachnid-like sculptures named Maman, something like that. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. All these different weird words. Anyway, her work is presented in a psychological analysis of sexuality, pain, and fear. Her work, titled Arch of Hysteria, which Podesta owned, is said to represent the contortions of a dancer and an acrobat. However, there are some people who align it to a specific murder by Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer posed a decapitated body in kind of a similar way. I'm just going to say that sometimes people make connections and draw conclusions without understanding the exact context of stuff. So let me tell you about Occam's razor. This is a scientific or philosophical rule. I first heard about Occam's razor when I was a graduate student in anthropology. I was taking what was I taking? It was an archaeology course, a graduate archaeology course, which, by the way, that professor was really kind of a jerk, just being kind of like, he was kind of pompous and arrogant and stuff. But anyway, I remember him talking about this. So anyway, Occam's razor is basically if you have two opposing ways to explain something, just kind of choose the simplest. Choosing the simplest usually is best, and it's usually the most accurate. Now, keep this principle, this Occam's razor, keep this in mind as we go on. People began associating child and human sacrifice with red shoes. And they further claimed that those shoes are made out of human flesh and usually baby skin. Now, the legend is that the red shoes camouflage blood that is spilt from these human sacrifices. Now, let's go a little bit deeper down this twist and turning rabbit hole, shall we? Now, it's said that the movie, The Wizard of Oz, okay, get this, is used by the Illuminati to brainwash children, and that these children then become sex slaves. Supposedly, there are some movies these kids watch as they're being abused, which gets them to be accepting of the abuse or something. It's really kind of just out there. But remember, the whole thing with the ruby red slippers, they were silver to begin with. It's only because of Technicolor that they became red. But yet, there's connections with the ruby slippers, the children wearing red shoes, and then the Pope's red shoes, and all of this, according to this legend, this theory, what have you, that it's pointing to pedophilia somehow. There are people that think that people who are wearing red shoes, that somehow that's a signal that they're pedophiles. Usually is associated with the rich and powerful, people in politics, people who are celebrities, that sort of thing. And also somehow this is all supposed to point to human trafficking of kids. Now let me ask you, do horrible things happen in this world? Absolutely. I mean, we've all heard stories where someone has been abused in some way. Maybe you've gone through it. Maybe you know someone. But I mean, we've heard stories. So we know things are going on within this world. But does it really seem logical that anyone who's wearing red shoes, or the rich and powerful who are wearing red shoes, that they're somehow communicating each other through secret shoe language? So let's just bring this back a little bit to multi-level marketing, okay? Could it be? Now, just watch me connect these dots, okay? And just follow this logic, if you will. Could it be that the Illuminati are actually behind the multi-level marketing phenomenon? Could it be that they want people to just chase after the dream, just do this endless recruitment chain to deflect us from what's really going on so that the deep state can, take over the world and create a new world order? Could that possibly be it? And just to make it a bit more clear, could the Illuminati really be the root of multi-level marketing? Now check out the symbolism of the Masonic ring compared to the highest rank of Amway, the Amway diamond ring. The symbolism used in multi-level marketing represents their perceived moral and intellectual superiority. And there is a truck going by. There is stuff happening outside. I'm so sorry. Now, there's a connection between the Freemasons and the Illuminati. The symbols that they use are very similar. Also, Richard DeVos Sr. and J. Van Andel are said to have connections to the Freemasons. And there's a picture of DeVos doing his hands in a position that is the Masonic symbol, which is a triangle. Maybe this is why celebrities use the same signal. They're all part of a multi-level marketing company. Maybe these elite of the world just want to keep all of us busy believing that through our hard work and the right mindset, that somehow we're going to be able to create a fortune for our families. Okay, Transamerica, remember? Multi-level marketing company. They have a building. What's the shape? It's a pyramid. If you've been watching any of my stuff or other anti-MLMers, you've probably heard about the BITE model created by Stephen Hassan. The BITE model stands for behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Given that Transamerica is in the shape of a pyramid, and the fact that the Bohemian Grove, which is part of the Bohemian Club, which is 75 miles north of San Francisco, could there be a connection? Doesn't it make sense that this annual retreat to the Bohemian Grove of the rich and powerful really is to talk about multi-level marketing? Could Richard DeVos Sr. and Jay Van Andel, could they have been part of this Bohemian Club and then met each year to pass on secrets about multi-level marketing? And they could talk about how to create these companies, what to infuse it with, how to use mind reform, all of these things that are all part of, if you look at any multi-level marketing company now, they all have vestiges of the same thing, which all stems from Amway, and that's what they created. And since, red shoes are connected with at least one MLM, could it be that all MLMs are connected to the Red Shoe Club and is actually comprised of pedos? Now, before you come at me with me making all these strange connections, let me share with you another phrase I learned when I was taking statistics. Correlation is not necessarily causation. Just because you can connect to things doesn't mean that they really are connected, doesn't mean that one caused the other. For example, it said that violent crime increases when more ice cream is bought. So, can it be that buying ice cream causes people to kill? Of course not. Ice cream is not going to turn people into killers. We as humans like to see patterns. And when we're observing things, we're just like drawing things to us to confirm the patterns that we already see. This is called confirmation bias. Coincidence is not correlation, and correlation is not causation. Scientists work hard to weed out bias, circular reasoning, self-fulfilling prophecies, and hidden variables, and then carefully analyze their results so that they don't overstate the results. Everything I shared with you, there is a bunch of drawing conclusions from things that seemingly relate, which serve to confirm the original belief. Makes sense? But do any of those things, are they really related? Do they really mean anything? And right now, what I see going on in the world is a lot of drawing conclusions based on things that are seemingly connected in some way, which to me, all they are doing is serving to confirm a bias somebody already has. Keep this saying, that correlation is not causation. Keep that in mind when stories come up. And also when you do your own research and you seek to confirm anything. Just always, and the Occam's razor too. Keep both of those things in mind. Now, when I started looking at all of this, one of the things that I noticed is that everybody was basically parroting back the exact same thing, but there wasn't any proof for anything. I didn't find anything that was definitive proof. It was just, things pointing to each other like, okay, there's red shoes there, there's red shoes here, but it didn't really seem to make sense. But yet people are saying that it does, and that just makes me very confused. Now, when people are under stress, people are looking to make sense out of nonsense. And right now in the world, we're all under stress. So I can understand why people might be latching on to something like, so that they have something to believe in. Because right now, there's you have no control over anything. And people are looking to somehow fill that void and feel like they are in control of something, even if it is kind of, an out there sort of theory, legend, what have you. Now, if you like this type of content, anti-MLM content, and also true crime, and maybe even diving into some like weird little theories and legends and just strange stories, you might want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you also give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment and let me know what you think about all of these things I talked about regarding red shoes. Do you think that there is some kind of like secret group that they're sending signals to each other through shoes? Or do you think that people could be taking things out of context and just trying to connect them in some way to prove something that they already have a bias in believing? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. I don't know how to sign off on these videos, so I'm just going to say toodles, and I'll see you next time.